before I get going too far on this, I wanted to show you what we started out with. So this was my kitchen counter cabinet for the stove, or the cooktop, obviously, with our microwave and our hood that vents to the outside, and our refrigerator. And my original equipment that I put in here 30 years ago had this propane heater down here, the Suburban propane heater. It's 34,000 BTU, and the thing works great, actually. Anyway, it has a cover on it like that. And I had ductwork, had 4 ducts. It had one that went to the front, one that came out here, one that came out in the floor in the back, and one that came out in the bedroom. And so we're going to remove this propane heater, and we're going to install this new heat pump. It fits in this cabinet also. This is a mini-split system with a ducted split. So most of them are mini-splits with no ducts. And so we're going to put this in here and duct it. I'm going to add a few more ducts in the front because there's more airflow from this than there was from this. And so we're going to rearrange the cabinet, and I'll show you how that comes out, hopefully here soon. Anyway, so this is what we're starting with. The propane heater that was 34,000 BTUs, and you can kind of get a look at how all of that was in there before. And then we had it filled with junk in every spare space that you can find in there. But it fits pretty perfectly for our new conversion. It'll give us central heat and air condition, all ducted throughout the bus. And I'm really excited about this. 30 years with no fixed air conditioner. We used a portable, one of those things that rolls around. I'd hang the vent tube out the driver's window, and it was always dripping, and it was sort of a nuisance. It didn't get to the back well, so hopefully this will work better. Alright, I'm about ready to lift this thing in here for the second time. The first time I lifted it in there, I put it in on top of a crate so I could hold it up and connect it to these bolts that are hanging down from the shelf on the top. I moved the shelf up a couple of inches to kind of split the space up better, and now it'll hang from that shelf. Anyway, I put a crate in there to support it so I could get it on the bolts, and then I realized I couldn't get the crate out. The older I get, the stupider I get. But you can see I have it all covered now with insulation so that when this thing gets cold with air conditioning, hopefully it'll get cold, it won't condensate and drip all over the place. So that's our plenum, and just handmade out of a piece of sheet metal, and these things you buy to connect your 4-inch tubes with, and that's how the air will go through the tubes that go to the back of the bus and the front of the bus. There are all these little details about installing this air conditioning system. You have to mount the thermostat. Well, I always had the thermostat next to the left bunk bed, upper bunk bed, and I had the wire run through the wall in the bathroom. And so now you have to take the medicine cabinet off, and I had to reform these brackets to make room for it. And then it goes down underneath the floor and then up front to the unit, which is up there in the cabinet. Excuse the mess, everything's torn apart here. So more details, but all this stuff takes a lot of time. So installed, this is what my little Senville heat pump, which is a heater and air conditioner for the bus looks like. And talk about an upgrade, boy, I tell you. For us, 30 years of no fixed air conditioner, and there's the wire coming through, and we are just about set to plug and play. So this is our new Senville Mini-Split air conditioner that's going to go in the side of the bus, and we almost have room for it, but not quite. So it's going to hang down a few inches 4 inches or so below the bottom of the bus. But the generator I had in there before basically did the same thing. One of the biggest challenges of this job is routing the copper line set that goes between the evaporator and the compressor. And so I was trying to find a good spot to do it. So here, anyway, my options basically were in this heating and air conditioning compartment, which you may have seen before in my other videos. That's my evaporator core that I installed a few months ago for the upgrade to the going down the road air conditioner. There's the 90 amp circulating fan. It's the original fan, and I considered installing the lines through this compartment right above the fan there. I would really prefer to keep them on an interior space, but it's really hard to get it through from up here. Somewhere between these two compartments is where that cabinet is inside, over to the other side. And then this is the fuel tank in the next bay, and as you can see, the fuel tank is let me get this light situated a little better so you can see. The fuel tank is in here, and where that gray line is, that's one of my air conditioning lines coming out from the engine compartment up to the side compartment over there. If I go right through there underneath of that, or right next to that, it goes over to where the evaporator core is, and that's where the new evaporator, or not evaporator, but condensing coil and the new condenser and compressor will go. So right up above here is where that little cabinet is, where it'll go. So I think this is going to be my best shot. So I'm almost set to go here. I have the thermostat wire run from the back. I only had an inch to spare on that. And it connects to this little control unit. And that's the wire coming in from the top that goes to the thermostat that's at the back on the wall right there. And so it goes underneath the floor and zigzags under there and then comes back up here in this compartment through the floor. Right there next to the safe, and then over the safe and up to the cabinet here, and right along the top there over to this, and then it just plugs into the control unit inside there. So this is how the ducts come out. There's 4 coming off the bottom, there's 2 coming off the top. I still have to cut the holes for the new little vents that go in the front of the cabinet there. And it's not the ideal situation, because you can see that, you know, it'll be coming out behind the seats, and hopefully it'll circulate enough air. Then there's one at the bottom that comes out and will come out in front of the seat. I'll hang that from the bottom of the seat frame, and the other 2 will be up here. And then there's one more actually, and I haven't hooked the tubes up yet, that goes to this vent down here. So that'll give us 4 vents in the front, and then the 2 that we have in the back are the one that's in the floor there, and then one that's in the bedroom in the back. So I'm hoping that'll give us enough circulation. Usually during the day, where you want your air conditioning, it's hotter. I mean, you want more cool air in the front where it gets hot, so we have it set up that way. And then at night in the back, you know, requires much cooling. Now when it's a heating situation, you probably want it to be the other way around, although we don't like it hot when we sleep anyway, so it'll probably be okay. So that's kind of the way this is all reconfigured here. Now for the condenser and the compressor. This was the condenser for going down the road. My CM2 carrier, 60,000 BTU, has 2 fans up there you can see, and the lines that come in from the engine and go up to the air conditioning and heating compartment in the front, and that's how that works. And so then the compressor and condenser unit will go below that in this compartment. Directly behind this wall is the fuel tank, and we're going to cut a couple holes there for the freon lines to go through. and I have to run the electric and whatnot. So this is kind of cleaned up. This cardboard pattern here is a cutout of the base of the unit that goes in here, and we're going to have to modify excuse the lighting problems here, but have to modify this base so we can pull the unit toward the outer part of the cabinet here. And then this is the footprint for that, which will go right about there, and it will be about 3 to 4 inches below the bottom of the bus here. So I'm getting ready to put this in. I drilled out all the holes here to take this monster panel out, and we're going to replace that with this angle and put that in there in place of it, and that'll be the first part of the base to support the air conditioning unit. This is really heavy. This is like 1/4 inch, 2.5 by 2.5, and I have 3/16 inch 3 by 3 that I'm going to use with that from my frame project, and we're going to make the support bracket for the condenser. So things are moving along here. All right, one last time, I just wanted to show you this compartment that is now ready with the bracketry to accept the condensing and condenser unit. It's 22 inches tall, and so we had to go below the interior of the compartment by about 2 inches. So that's not really too bad. This is one mounting plate, this is the other plate. We'll slide it in on its stomach and then lift it up to this side with a jack, and then put this bracket in place on the back side. If you'll notice, I trimmed out, this is a 3 by 3 3/16 inch angle aluminum, and I trimmed out this section in the middle of it. Hopefully it won't be compromised too much. It's not going to have a lot of lateral tension on it, but most of the pressure will be down. The unit only weighs 100 pounds, so it shouldn't be too much. The motor that was in here was a lot heavier than that, but I had steel channel in here for the 4-cylinder motor that used to be in here. Anyway, so I trimmed that out so there'd be more airflow, because this unit will draw air up and out through the fan on the side of the bus, and the unit above, the condenser for the going down the road air conditioning, draws air from the outside side of the bus and blows it down, and so hopefully it'll go that way. But as you can see, this is the amount of distance below the body of the bus. So it's really only from the bottom panel right here, when the door is closed, about 1.5 inches. So I'm pretty happy with that, and I think that is about as good a use of this space as we can get. Now, the last remaining thing that I've been struggling with is how to get the freon lines that are going to come to this corner from over there somewhere through here. The fuel tank is on the other side, but I don't want to invade that space if I can help it. And I may try to go through here somewhere, but I'm not really sure yet how that's going to work out, so we'll see how it goes. So in the end, I decided to go through the heating and ventilation compartment rather than through the area over the fuel tank. And this is our line run now. Come into the bay on the left side of the bus where we're going to put our condenser, and looking pretty good. That line was hard to run. Boy, that was a lot of work. So the line comes in from the left side of the bus, as you can see, and goes through the HVAC compartment. It's fairly much out of the way. It's resting on this ledge here, so it's pretty stable. And then it goes right up to the floor above where we are here, into the cabinet directly. And it made a pretty nice installation, actually. I like this much better than going over the fuel tank. So you can see it comes up through the hole in the floor out of the HVAC compartment, and it will go and connect pretty soon to those two connections right there. Hopefully that won't be too difficult, but nothing's been easy. I forgot to mention I'm leaving this extra loop in here. You know, I would trim it off and just flare the end wherever it needed to be. But two things about that. One is the system comes pre-charged, and it comes charged for this length of line, so I don't know whether cutting a few feet off of it makes any difference or not. The second thing is that to be able to service this thing from the top, I'm going to have to be able to lower it, and to be able to lower it I need some extra line so that I can do that without disconnecting the system every time I want to check something on it. So the extra loop in there is designed for me to be able to unsecure it after we get it secured, and then service it.
Okay, now, the one thing I'm not sure that you...
All right, now flash forward on the jack. Just stand it up. All right, so our condenser is in, and it is bolted up. I have a couple more touches to do. You can see I put a little plastic mud flap I cut up to protect the bottom, and I'll clean it up some, but it's mounted, and we're doing the wiring right now. It's pretty simple wiring. It's just 1, 2, 3, the communications wire between this unit and the unit inside, and it's 4 lines coming in from the 220, so the red and the black go to line 1 and line 2, or L1 and L2. There's 2 grounds, well, there's a ground and a neutral that get screwed onto the green screws on the side over there, and as soon as we button this thing up, we'll connect our freon lines down here, and then we'll go to the inside and do the same thing. Working out pretty good though, and you can see, I guess, a little bit more stuff under there about how things are put together, and I'm feeling good about it. Let's just hope it works. So I need to tie up the wires and secure the freon lines in the back there. I'll do that when I can get the bus out and get the front end up. I can't get under it right now. Inside we have the freon lines now connected, and we just wired up the line, the control line or the signal line, and this is pretty simple. It's just 1, 2, 3, and it's the same thing on the other end, 1, 2, 3. So I did red, black, white, and then the ground, and then you cover this over, and that's done. I'm going to tie this up, and we have left to put in our drains. There's a drain pump in here for the condensation pump, and you're supposed to just run this out and get it away from inside. The problem is when you're camping, sometimes you're not exactly level, especially in this bus you can't level it. So they provide these plugged fittings at the bottom of the plastic pan, the drip pan, and so what I'm going to do is connect all 3 of them, and that way if I'm going downhill or tilted to the left or tilted to the right, it ought to pick it up somewhere rather than running out. And it's a nice little pan in there. So we will do that after we finish this. One of the final steps was connecting the drain hose for the condensation, and that's what you see here. It comes through the wooden floor up above and directly down into our HVAC, and these are the drains for the going down the road air conditioner. So it's just sitting there, and it's going to drain through that little hole, I hope, and life should be good. May have to tie that down, but for now we're going to leave it like that. It's a pretty stiff hose, so I'm hoping it'll stay that way. Just don't know how much turbulence there is with that fan. Quite a bit, I'm sure, but we'll check it. There's a place to look through and see it. Anyway, so that's the connection down here. So the last thing is this ridiculous looking thing with all of these hose clamps. Turns out that it's like 3/4 inch copper pipe size for the OD on their fittings, so it's about 1 inch actually ID on the tubes. So I got this plastic tube to match the size of the outputs for the condenser here, or the evaporator here. And the top one is the pump that pumps the water out. The bottom one is the drain toward the front, and then there's a tube, some piece of junk that I scavenged, that goes to the other side. So if we're tilting toward the back, it'll go out this one. If we're tilting toward the front, it'll go out one of these two, and hopefully there won't be any water inside the bus, and that just goes down through to the HVAC compartment. So we're hooked up right now and we're waiting. We've run our pump for a couple of hours and we're waiting to see if we have any loss of vacuum, and it looks, this is the second time I'm doing this. I'm doing it twice just to be sure. We haven't lost any. We're at 21 inches right there, and we are connected on the low pressure side. It's the only port that's provided on these Mini-Splits. And then we'll open up the high pressure side for a few seconds and run some pressure into it for about 5 seconds and close that off. We'll check it again to make sure it's not losing any compressed freon inside there. And then after we've done that, then we'll slowly open those valves and we'll be able to go inside and do the electronic test on the entire system. Okay, so we've been at 21 inches of vacuum for probably over an hour now. And we're going to put some freon in by opening up the high side port for 5 seconds and let it just fill up a little bit above 0. And then we're going to close it and watch to see if we lose any freon after we open it. So very slowly. 2, 3, 4, 5, and put in 50 pounds or so. Okay, and closed it up. Now it's got about 75 pounds. Let's see, we're right at about 75 pounds. So now we'll let that sit for a few minutes and we'll come back and check it and make sure we're not losing any pressure anywhere. So it's been about 5 minutes, maybe longer, and pressure's holding, and so we are going to take our line set off and there we go. And we are going to slowly open up our high pressure line. I don't like to do anything fast with these. Just let it bleed out on a quarter of a turn till it stops going, so that everything moves in there slowly. I don't know. I'm always phobic about things getting damaged when you do it too quickly. So that sounds like it's quit. We'll back this off. Have to tie that line down till we get to the end. And we'll stop gently. We won't force it. There he goes. That's open. Then we'll open up the suction side so that when we turn it on, everything will flow through the way it's supposed to. Shouldn't be much moving here because now it should be equalized. And we'll back that off gently. How many turns this is? There it goes. All right. And it's backed off gently, and we'll put our caps on and tighten them down. Make sure everything stays clean and sealed. And we'll be ready to go do our electronic evaluation and get the thing fired up, hopefully, for the first time ever. So I'll be back in a minute. So this is our mini-split system running. We're out camping on our first trip. It's in the 90s today with high humidity, and I have the camera as close to this thing as I can get, and you can hear the air moving, but you really cannot hear it running. It keeps the bus comfortable even in 90-degree weather. We have it set on 70 right now, and except for when you're up front and the sun is beating down on all the glass there and you don't have any protection on the glass, it gets a little warm toward the ceiling. So we have this fan that circulates the air away from the ceiling and keeps it extremely comfortable in here. So I could not be more pleased, and I'll show you the outside unit and how quiet that runs too. Off in the distance is the Assateague Lighthouse, and we're on Chincoteague right now, and this is our campsite, and there's our bus in our campsite, and we're next to this trailer, and perhaps you can hear that air conditioner running up there. And then you come around to our side of the bus where our mini Senville is, and that's it right there. Except for the little bit of fan noise that you hear, you cannot hear this thing run. It is just incredibly quiet, and I love my little Senville.